Welcome everyone to another meta-analysis, aka tier list video here on the channel. You already see him on the screen. We are once again joined by the almighty Philip, aka Icentric's friend and moderator of the channel. Philip, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm hyped. Like meta-analysis, always like my favorite format, to be honest.
It's great.
Because we have a lot of stuff to talk about.
For real, because also now we have plenty of stuff that is changing the format. We for once have the new Forbidden Limited List update, which was quite recently, and then also the new set, which was just released this week, also is now available. So multiple factors changing the format, hopefully shaking up the format a little bit, and I'm actually just really excited about it, because last weekend there was a YCS in America. Sure, they had the new list already, but they didn't have the new cards from the new set yet, so that is still going to be a little bit more to talk about, right?
Yeah, because I'm happy you're talking about it. Like you mentioned, like YCS Raleigh already.
Yeah.
Which was like very interesting, where we didn't see a lot of changes, I feel like. But now with the new set and like a YCS just being like 1 week away, YCS Sao Paulo, I think it is.
Yeah.
I'm super.
No, wait, it's Rio. I think it's Rio, isn't it?
Oh, it's Rio. It's Rio. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
but Brazil.
Brazil. Yeah. I'm so happy, like, or so interested to see how it will like shape out the format, because we didn't see many innovations, because I feel like people didn't feel like it is worth spending the time to innovate on decks. But now, like, getting slowly into national season, people will innovate.
Yeah, we can cook for sure. Also, everyone, you see a timer running down there on the top left of the screen. That is because we are currently on a 24-hour stream live on Twitch. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube to also head over to my Twitch channel and leave a follow over there, so you see me live talking about that kind of stuff. You could see this meta-analysis live. Also, leave a like to this video, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and now let's talk some Yu-Gi-Oh! First deck on the agenda is we recently would call it Rika, but at this point, is it even worth it calling it Rika anymore?
I think it is still Rika, but I more like think it's like the plant pile, because it's like pendulum back in the days,
kind of,
where like every pendulum deck was the pendulum pile, and this is the plant pile. So, and the interesting thing is this deck didn't get like anything from the Forbidden Limited List, nothing changed, but Legacy of Destruction gave this deck a new engine.
That's true. That's true.
So
carry on. What's the new engine? What is that about?
Yeah. So right now we might talk about Rika.
Yeah.
Yeah, being like quote unquote, I think people called it like the Diabesta engine of plants. I don't know if it's that good, to be honest. I haven't like figured out everything about the deck, because I'm not a big plant expert. I haven't studied biology. Yeah. So do you have like any idea about the Rika deck? So any feeling how good you think it is?
I already thought that the Sun Avalon Rika Aromage pile Lede was valid. Like Judith Schwarzkopf and topping regionals with it, Jessica Robinson topping regionals with it. So I felt like the people that were doing good with plants, that understand the plant logic, were already crushing with it. And now I'm just not sure whether the Rika cards really are adding something to the deck, you know? Like, they are a new tool, a tool that can do some funny stuff, but I just don't know whether it's the necessary piece which makes it better. It makes it more versatile. You can go into a different direction, but I wouldn't necessarily say it makes it better, you know?
Yeah, the thing is, I feel like the deck gets better with the Rika cards.
Okay.
But the main problem I have is that, like, we are now at a point where you like really need to play 60-card plant pile, because you have so many bricks or so many engine pieces engine requirements you want to play, so that you need to hide them in 60. And then we're coming at a point like where I already take something away from like the next deck, Branded, where I feel like these two decks are quite similar, but Branded just does the things better than the Sun Avalon or like the plant deck.
Fair.
Because the thing is, like, you have this big combo deck that is like a bit fragile to some hand traps, which plays very good against Board Breaker, and like the same classification I would give Branded.
Yeah, that's a valid statement. So I think we will have to talk about it either being high potential or rogue. That would be where I am seeing it. Do you see it more as a rogue deck, or do you think there is high potential for it in the upcoming format?
I think I would put it at the bottom of high potential.
Okay, yeah, I can live with that.
Because of the reason, like, the deck also like got the advantage that now with the Omni Negates being gone from the end fields, this deck can play a lot more with its cards, which I think like suits the deck very good.
Yeah, I like it. High potential it is. Next deck up on the list is actually a deck that you told me you have recently picked up as well after it being around for 5 years or however long that is now. But it is branded. And honestly, every time I play against branded, every time I see branded, it just feels so scary. Like this deck just never fails to amaze me. And also, even accomplished branded players always, I feel like they are still learning and they're still getting better with the deck. Like this deck rewards you so hardcore for putting in the hours with it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the deck is very good, to be honest. Like the branded deck, as I already said, like now Omni Negates being gone helps the deck so that your branded fusion might resolve more often.
Yeah.
The deck now is at the point where it does not always lose to Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring.
Totally.
It sometimes has a rough time against the card, but it can play through it. And now with like Omni Negates being gone, it was like normally I had like the feeling that if your opponent has these Omni Negates plus Ash, you will never play through it.
Yeah, for sure.
And now with them being gone, I see like a way how you can like probably play with your Cartesia so through it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And so like in my heart, I would almost that may be a little bit subjective. I would almost want to put it into top meta, but I think it would be more realistic to go challenger, right?
I mean, I'll be honest, we can't put it at the bottom of top meta. So because I think it is not the best deck of the format.
No, yeah.
But I see good reasons to play the deck.
Same.
And I mean, like, I feel like the main reason people like don't really go onto branded as a deck is because like just other decks are like more rewarding for them because you need to put like a lot of effort into branded.
Yeah, for sure.
So that you are having a chance of winning events, I think.
And I mean, let's face it, a lot of people were super surprised by the fact that neither the Sanctifier Dragon nor Gimmick Puppet found its place on the Forbidden and Limited section in the recent update of the list. And therefore, we can still just get free wins with this deck as well if we choose to go for that strategy game free or something. So
yeah,
let's put it in the top meta, you know? Why not?
Yeah.
End of top meta. I like it.
I think top meta is good. Yeah, I think that's a place where the deck belongs to. A deck that does not belong into top meta is the Centurion deck, I think.
Is the new support already coming out in Lede? Was there new support?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So the important support comes out in Lede. The deck also gets a bit more of boost in Infinite Forbidden, which is like 3 months or so away.
Yeah.
But the big things now already came out in Legacy of Destruction, where the deck can now effectively is like the next shifter deck in the format we have.
Okay, so but is it good enough of a shifter deck? Is it making it past Rogue, or is it just simply still a Rogue deck?
I think it's just still a Rogue deck, honestly, because the deck is way too straight-lined. The deck still misses its second tuner, and especially I have the feeling the deck misses like extenders, in-engine extenders. Because right now it's mainly like you need the Horus cards to have a chance of extending. But if you're playing shifter, do you really want to play the Horus cards? Because one of them will always be that.
Yeah. I think like
that's like guaranteed.
Basically every time I saw Centurion lately, it was usually with the Horus cards. Like it was never pure Centurion; it was always Horus Centurion. So, but I think they get another tuner in Infinite Forbidden, then, right? I think I saw another tuner being announced. Okay, yeah.
They get one, but I think like that tuner is also not solving the problems of the deck because it is also not like an extender.
Fair.
Which is, I feel like the problem, because also Centurion just loses to so many non-engine. I already said like in another meta-analysis, where I said like the problem is some decks that are good have like the problem against hand traps, others have a problem against board breaker. Centurion loses to both.
Yeah, fair.
Which is like very horrible. Like they can lose to both non-engine, which hurts the deck a lot.
Yeah, I do agree. It's a rogue deck for now. I mean, prove us otherwise. Let us know in the comments, but I think it's a rogue deck. And then I didn't even realize that you put it on there, but is that DPE for heroes?
It is DPE for heroes.
Let's not waste any time. If you're a heroes player, you are a Giga Chat, but you also should try to play a different deck, because maybe next time with the hero deck.
I say 2 words, like the deck got a third malicious. That is nice.
Oh,
heroes did not have a problem of not having too many malicious before, so that's not the biggest buff. The deck does not immediately lose to Nibiru all the time, but like your plan for Nibiru doesn't convince me. It's like Plasma Pass or so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's why. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Maybe next time, Fabian Waijo as well. Thank you so much for the sub. 4 month it is. Timer going up. As I said earlier on, we are live recording this, so check out the Twitch stream as well if you see this on YouTube. Next up, a deck that I have a special place at this point in my heart for, and that is Axo Sisters. Funnily enough, though, have never touched Exo Sister cards IRL. I'm playing this deck on Master Rule back and forth, but I've never touched, like, I never had the special feeling of special summoning Mafar to the field physically.
Yeah, I can tell you why. Because, like, in Antwerp at the Euros back at the time, you hated on that deck so much.
I did.
I'm not one that you didn't pick it up.
I did. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, realistically, the power level of the deck is just not in a place where it could be comparable with any of the other decks that are meta right now. So it would probably be like, I would be nice to it when I would put it into Rogue, right?
Yeah, for me it's a maybe next time deck, just because of the reason right now. I felt like the biggest, like the only maybe slightly okay matchup Axo Sister maybe has is like Runic. The only reason why I would say like, yeah, the deck has a Savvy, and I spoil you already, like I don't think Runic is that popular, and all the other matchups are not so good, and also like there are better shifter decks out there.
That's fair. But
I would put it above of Heroes.
Yes, we beat the Heroes. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, then,
talking about shifter decks, right?
Yep, and we have the Floowandereeze connoisseur joining us here. We have the man that played this deck at German Open, had a good run with it. Yep.
Even in the future, yeah.
So, do you think anything changes for this deck? Because for German Open, you were pretty convinced that it's a decent deck to pick, right? But
before German Open, before German Open, I felt like the deck had like a very good matchup into Snake Eye. Like maybe already like an insta-win matchup, I would even call it. And I don't think that has changed much, to be honest. But on the other hand, what I feel like is that more decks will join the format now.
Yeah.
And I think this hurts the Floowandereeze deck a lot.
That's the thing. Like, we one deck that probably is going to be like that's the most discussed at the moment from the newest set is obviously Tenpai. And just as a quick question, what is the Floowandereeze against Tenpai matchup? Is it? I think it's doable, isn't it, for Tenpai?
Honestly, that matchup for Floowandereeze could be actually fine.
Yeah?
Because when there is Amton, like they summon, like they need to attack, so they need to summon the stuff in attack position.
Yeah.
So they would need to somehow deal with Amton. On the other hand, if Tenpai draws like 2 or 3 hand traps, it might even get tough for Floowandereeze. But the bigger thing I feel like is like it's not only the Tenpai matchup, it's like the branded matchup that is horrible.
Yeah.
I also feel like the Voiceless matchup is not super favorable.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, it's only the Snake Eye matchup the deck has going for it. And I just don't think it's enough because, like, the Floowandereeze deck itself is not a deck that comes, like, that gets good by the stuff it does. It gets good by the matchup it has.
For sure.
It was always the same. Like, it was always, like, when Tyr was around, the deck was solid at least.
Absolutely.
And right now...
But when there's just decks that can OTK, then it's weird. You know, like when you just have a million resources in the hand to be able to do it again next turn, but your opponent just OTKs you like a branded deck, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the Featherstone stayed, so the deck has a win condition, and I think it's a top challenger deck, to be honest.
Top challenger deck. That's quite high, honestly.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we saw from Rise's Raleigh that still a lot of Snake Eyes was running around, and there is not a real sign that this deck like that this changes super hard, but I feel like it's not like that you face like 7 out of 9 rounds Snake Eye anymore.
That's the thing, like Tenpai
That's my feeling.
Supposedly has a really good Snake Eye matchup. So like Tenpai coming into the format would be the only reason for me to assume that the numbers of Snake Eye decks is going to go down, because people could be afraid of picking Snake Eye because they are afraid of Tenpai being around so much. And I mean, let's face it, Tenpai is a budget deck, and therefore there should be a lot of Tenpai in theory during the next couple of weeks. So...
yeah, it could be.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fine. It's a challenger deck. I like it. It still has a decent matchup against one of the supposedly best decks in the format, so it definitely is deserved. Next up the list is also one that is still considered to be a shifter deck, of course, and it is Kashtira. And with Kashtira...
I think you're a big fan of this deck, right? You were, at least.
Like, with Kashtira, it's going back and forth. It's going back and forth, because the last 1 to 2 months, I really don't understand how people had success with Kashtira. Like, Kashtira in Snake Eye format just didn't give me a good feeling at all. Like, it felt like you would have to open shifter, or otherwise you're just losing the engine battle so hard, because the other engine is 1,000 times better than yours.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think this deck also lost a lot from the Forbidden Limited list, even though it was not hit on the list. Because the reason for it is, like, I felt like if you want to like win with this deck, people went for the Heat Soul line.
Yeah.
But now with Nibiru being much more popular because of Baron and Savage being forbidden, like, I don't know if I would be brave enough to go for the Heat Soul line anymore.
Fair, yeah, I like that.
And also the deck itself cannot play Baron anymore, because even though it was not a deck like playing a lot of tuners or so, if you played the deck, you knew that there were like not super rare circumstances where you like hand trapped each other a lot.
Totally.
And then you just normaled the hand trap, went Baron, and like had follow up, had control over the game. And now with Baron
that happened
being
very
gone,
often, actually. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll be honest
valid.
with you. I think it's a rogue deck by now, a good rogue deck, but I don't think it's challenger or high potential anymore.
I agree, and I like the way we got there, that you brought us there. Like, it actually is a format change that really, on first sight, doesn't seem to affect Kashtira, but like, I totally agree with you that Nibiru should be becoming a lot more popular, and that has to hurt this deck for sure. Oh, and next up, that's one for the nostalgia enjoyers in Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. Like, Lightsworn, the support in Lede now is actually crazy. Like, watching the deck, I've seen a couple of videos where people played with the new cards. This looks hella fun. I want to play this, honestly. I want to play this badly.
Oh, I really don't want to play this deck.
Why? Why though?
I mean, it's a super cool deck. I'll have to give you that. I mean, if I would play it, but I would be so scared to draw like Phallus and Wolf. And then
Doesn't matter.
to draw like, you have to draw the exact pieces to get them out of your hand.
Don't you play Solar Recharge anymore?
I don't know if you play Solar Recharge. I mean, I know like the way you get them out of hand is like you add, I think she's called Vice, where like, and Vice says like you put like a Lightsworn from your hand on top of your deck, and then you mill 2 and special her, which is very good if you draw Phallus or Wolf.
There you go. There you have your answer. Top meta deck confirmed.
I mean, I'll give you that. I think the deck is interesting. You can actually like experiment a lot with it. That's the reason I would like be inclined to put it into high potential category, where I think it totally belongs to, because the deck has like infinite ways to be innovated. On the other hand, if you ask me personally, I think the deck will end up in Rogue. As a good rogue deck, but it will end up in rogue in my opinion.
I get why you're saying that for sure, but like I think it's one of those prime examples once more that we can throw into the high potential category, because obviously there's still so many ways to explore with this deck. So there is the potential for something great to happen, but we just don't know whether that is really going to happen, and we are somewhat skeptical. So we will put it into the lower end of high potential. I think that's where it deserves.
Yeah. Like I said, I think also the deck loses a lot without Baron.
Yeah, true.
Which hurts because it is a synchro deck, but it has like so much stuff it can do, like chaos piles and like everything. So it's interesting. I'm interested how this will turn out.
Yeah, for sure. Then next up the list we have Voiceless Voice, and Voiceless Voice is one more of an interesting deck, because yes, a lot of decks lost their Omni Negates with Baron and Savage, but Voiceless Voice, of course, still has their Omni Negate with their in-engine ritual monster, the Skull Guardian, being an Omni Negate. And honestly, I was kinda not super happy with Voiceless Voice before the list, but now with the list, I kind of like it, honestly. I think it's definitely a contender.
Yeah, honestly, I tried to like find a good Voiceless Voice list like a billion times already. Like, I have this deck laying around. I put it like into sleeves, put it out of sleeves like so often.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think now with the new Forbidden Limitless and with this format change, the deck could actually be like a very good meta deck. Like, we heard it already today from like the Raiders coming in.
Yeah,
that it won like a regional in France. And I told you also before, I saw people experimenting with Melodious Voiceless Voice.
That sounds nice,
Yeah, and I think that deck could actually have a real high potential, because it feels like a mid-range deck that can like put up a lot of interrupts, like a very big board, like with like Appaloosa of multiple negates, the Skull Guardian of course, and the Vortex Dragon. where you're like slowly getting to a point where you have so many interrupts in your opponent's turn that even cards like Droplet, which is a very popular card right now, cannot deal with it because you would have to like discard 3 cards or so.
Yeah.
And
I really have to say I like it. I think it could be it's probably, I think it's a better deck than Flu right now. I'd put it into Challenger and probably top of Challenger if you ask me.
Honestly, I would even put it in top mana.
Wow, that's bold.
That might be a bit too high, and there might be a bit of copium because I love ritual decks since Necros. But I think the deck is actually very good and very interesting. But I mean, it needs a lot of like I need like a lot more data of how people approach the deck, because we also just saw in the OCG people are getting like onto the Melodious stuff.
True, yeah.
Slowly.
And I mean, in the OCG, to be fair, the deck is quite successful, right?
It's at least one of the solid decks right now in the OCG. For sure. Like one of the bigger 5 decks. And I think like it's like I have a Challenger top mana, and I think it's definitely sitting good there.
Yeah, I think Challenger is fine for now. Maybe like I'm making the call. At least one national in Europe is going to be won by Voiceless Voice. I would say that.
Oh, easily. I would even go as far as say like one of like maybe the 6 or 7 biggest regions might be won by Voiceless.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Coming to a deck that might not win a national, it is Magispector.
Magispector. Kieran is back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. What do you think about Kieran being back?
I don't know why it didn't come back earlier, honestly. Like, the card does not even seem great anymore. Like, people were so scared of bringing this card back, and they're like, no, Kieran, it was so meta-defining back in the day. And when you look at it nowadays, it's like, yeah, it's a cool interrupt, but it doesn't feel like a 2024 super meta-defining card anymore at all. Like,
it's crazy. It's crazy how much like the meta has shifted in the past years. Because I just watched like some old school Yu-Gi-Oh like a few weeks ago, and there just felt like Kieran is was so
it was
impressive
insane.
back
It was
then.
So insane.
Yeah, because it wasn't able to be targeted. It was like an interrupt that came back each turn. But now in 2024, like decks like Voiceless Voice have Skull Guardian, which is an Omni Negate each turn, and they have a billion follow-up, and then there's like Kieran sitting around saying like, yeah, I cannot be targeted, but I'm a bounce.
Yeah. Also, Forbidden Droplet is just a card that nowadays is in a lot of decks, so you can Forbidden Droplet the Kieran. I don't know. I'm happy for the Pendulum Andes that they got their Kieran back so that they don't have to whine every single list now. Please bring me back my Kieran. Please, I need it so much. Now they got it. They realize it doesn't help them anything. And we can move on with our lives. But I would say...
Put it into maybe next time.
Really? Shall we do it that... I would have said Rogue, but...
I don't think it's a Rogue deck, honestly. Because I think like the deck has so many problems. Like being easy to hand trap, and so
Oh no, now the Pendulum Andes, of course, come in and say, I need Electromite. I should have... Oh, no. I mean, let's move on. Let's move on to the Synchro Andes. Let's go to the Manadium Enjoyers. What do we think about Manadium? They lost one of their key pieces of their end field. They lost Baron, right?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't a big fan of Manadium before the Forbidden Limited list. I still see some like interesting stuff in like the engine itself, but I don't see like any potential in the deck in the format. Because the engine itself still doesn't look super bad, because like Vicious Astrolabe is such a good card to break boards.
For sure, yeah.
But right now you just don't have like a lot of stuff to go into your stuff, and it's then just like a worse Centurion deck like that tries to Calamity Lock, I think. And
yeah, I think
Vicious
Astrolabe is beating 3 negates, isn't it? Like that's what I had in mind. I think that is what Trift told us, right? Vicious Astrolabe alone beats 3 negates. That's what I had.
Alone a +7, I heard. When you summon it, it's a +7. Like to be real, like the card itself is very good, but the deck just lacks too much stuff otherwise, and then it's like a big engine pile. Or it feels like a big engine pile that is super fragile, especially without Baron. Also, like Nip can hurt you.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know if it's even a Rogue deck anymore. It might be too harsh, though.
I think it is at the end of Rogue, and I agree that it feels worse than Centurion, honestly. So behind Centurion seems like a good place to put it.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh boy, next deck. I'm interested. So this is Melodious.
I'm very, very interested as well, because I've heard... and maybe you have to read it up as well. I have to find that resource. Apparently, somewhere on the internet, there's a 72-page guide about Melodious, explaining every single card and so on. There's someone very dedicated to Melodious somewhere that wrote like a really, really cool guide. And I low-key want to read it, but I haven't found it. I have to hit up some people that told me about it. But yeah, like this deck gets support and it's actually insane. Or it got support in the just released set.
The support itself is insane.
It's crazy.
Honestly.
It's crazy for real.
So I need to tell like a very sad story of myself I had the last few days.
Go ahead.
Because I had like an idea with Melodious. Because like as you might know, like the first movement solo that locks you into Melodious cards. And then I thought like, yeah, but maybe you don't need that card and can just pair Melodious with Runics.
Okay.
Because Melodious, the Link 2, only needs 2 fairies. And you know what? Jürgen is a fairy.
Asking for a friend. Were you in a call with Josh at this particular time? Or?
No. I was not. I had that idea myself.
Okay.
I really wanted to have that idea.
Sure.
And it sounded really good then. And also because the Link 2 is so custom. And then I read up on it, and also the Link 2 locks you into Melodious for the whole turn. And then I was like, yeah, that does not work with Jürgen then.
Even previously, it says you can only that turn summon Melodious monsters.
Yeah. It's like for the whole turn you can only summon like Melodious or like use Melodious effects. And I was very sad because I thought like you can use it to like Link 2 with Jürgen into like the Melodious Link 2.
Yeah, sounds good.
On the other hand, maybe the deck doesn't even need Jürgen because the deck is already good.
For sure. Like please quickly explain what the general concept of the deck is. What is their end field? What are they trying to do?
So I can't even tell you the real end field because the deck can, I think, like vary a bit.
It can for sure. Yeah.
The big thing I think is like it has like a very big bounce.
Yeah. It
like
does.
Being able to bounce a lot of stuff. But the main thing that makes this deck interesting is that it has like very good 1-card combos. So it has like the, how's it called? The Ostinato, which is like branded fusion if you control no monsters. So you can fuse with your deck. Then like the Concerto, which is a spell you search, can like fuse with your Pendulum Scales. And your Pendulum Scales can just like reset them up. It feels a bit like the super heavy support, even though it's not as degenerate as that one.
Yeah, but like what it has in common with the super heavy Samurai deck is, and you said that like a lot of 1-card combos, and whenever you have 1-card combos, it's quite obvious that you have quite some space for non-engine, and therefore Melodious definitely is another hand trap deck, right? Like that's what it's looking like.
Yeah. So and also what makes it good is like I think she's called Baja. Says like your Melodious effects cannot be negated or so.
Yeah.
Which also is like a very, very good thing into Boros Zone. So the thing I have with the deck though is I feel like the deck does a lot of fancy stuff without accomplishing enough. Because the Xenolock, like locking yourself into Melodious, is very hard.
True.
Like those locks always hurt a lot because you cannot like rely on tech cards like SP Little Knight to break boards. You can't rely on Kashtira Fenrir if the card is good in the format.
Fair.
I still see a place for this deck in the upcoming format, but I don't think it will be like a very good deck we will see win in events.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
So I want to at the very least put it into high potential because like as we both say there is potential with this deck for sure. And I would be open to a discussion where we could put this into challenger. What are you thinking?
So I would only put it into high potential.
Okay, yeah.
Because of a simple reason. It is like the quick effect to banish of the fusion is very good.
Yeah.
I have to give it, but people overestimate it often because like it is not like banishing multiple times or so, I think, or bouncing multiple times. It is like bouncing at once.
Yeah.
And having a card that can bounce 4 times is better than a card that can bounce 1 time 4 cards.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is a thing, because like if the card like your interrupt is threatened very early in the turn, you need to fire it. And maybe you can't get like the whole value, and that's the reason I feel like you lose a bit.
Yeah,
of the power of the deck.
That's a reasonable thing to say. So I would personally say it probably could be the for
Best
now top high potential.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I would put it at the top of high potential, honestly, because I think the deck has a lot of potential.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, another deck that definitely has some potential because it got some support is Pearly. And Pearly now is gaming again with with double delicious memory, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, I honestly think Pearly is a very good deck.
It is. I agree. Like it's even like it's not even a question. It definitely has high potential, but it's beyond that. It's definitely even better than this. So because like I think this could even be a top meta deck, right? Because we don't need to waste super much time talking about Pearly. Everyone at this point knows how Pearly works, what Pearly does, and now it doing it more consistently again into a potential broad format where people don't have the space to play main deck answers to the deck. I could see this being a top meta deck, honestly.
I think that's a bit too much, honestly.
Really?
Because
okay.
I think the deck still has its problems against hand traps. The thing I like is like the Pearly Street is very good against some meta decks.
Yeah.
Where it's like against the decks that hand trap a lot is good. But I still feel like the deck is a bit too fragile, honestly.
Okay.
That's the problem I have with the deck. I think it's like a solid deck, especially because people don't have it on their radar.
For sure, yeah.
And we already saw Dinkang Fang winning with it, like a big regional in Cologne, I think.
Yeah, left and right, he's winning.
Yeah, and that's I think the deck is good, but it's like probably I would put it in the low challenger category, honestly.
Okay.
I mean
I want it in front of Flu. Yeah, I want it in front of Flu. Okay.
Yeah, because I think the playing into boards is still very tough with Pearly.
Yeah.
And I'm still not really sure how I would like tackle the deck in terms of deck building. If you want to play like the Rainbow Bridge to get like consistent to your field spell, if you want to play another discard engine, or if you're like just discarding your hand traps if you need to.
Fair enough. Okay, next deck on the list is Raidraptor, and I can think back to the day where we did the last meta analysis where Raidraptor support just recently got released. And we were actually quite hyped about the deck, and we thought this deck could be sneaking into some top cuts. And a couple months later, moving to this day that we are speaking right now at, nothing, right? Like literally not even regional tops for the Raidraptor deck. I was honestly quite surprised by that, but my main explanation for that is that just too many hand traps were around, right? Everyone was playing Droll all of a sudden again because Kashtira Snake Eye was a thing. Everyone was playing Nip, so like it wasn't the format for the deck. But honestly, I don't think the format is going to change too much for it to get better, honestly.
So to be honest now, I think like you're a bit mistaken on that because I heard like the Raidraptor deck can play especially good through like Nibiru or Droll. I mean, Droll is a bit tough, but Nibiru, it can play through that quite easily.
What every player base says about their deck. Yeah, my pet deck can play through Nibiru and Droll. I just need the right free extenders.
No. For Raidraptor, it makes sense because of the reason of like the deck goes for Arsenal Falcon as like I think their 4th or 5th summon.
Okay, yeah.
Which is the one that like specials from deck.
Yeah.
And if it is tributed, you go into like the card you already see here, Ultimate Falcon. And people don't know because normally people already cheated it out with like Waking the Dragon.
True.
Ultimate Falcon is a bit like Azathoth when it's summoned in your turn.
True.
And so you can only nib like on the card that summons Ultimate Falcon, which is completely pointless.
Yeah.
So the deck itself plays through nib quite well. The problem is the deck loses to like Imperm Ash Veiler, I think. And the reason I think the deck didn't perform that good is because I think the good players didn't pick it up.
Okay.
For various reasons though, because the playstyle itself is not very appealing. There is not like really much stuff to like outplay your opponent when your board is built. It's more like to play for hand traps or so, and that I think is not appealing for a good player because good players want to have like a way that they can like make the difference by playing or reading situations other than like learning how to combo through Ash Blossom with Witch Hand.
Okay, but that then means that you think that the deck still has high potential, just not the right people playing it so far.
No, I think honestly, I think high potential is a bit too high right now because the format isn't like that good for the deck. I still feel like there might be a format one time for it because it like setting up multiple towers, like not having an out. It is like Pearly, where Pearly needs specific answers, and I think that's the same for Raidraptor. But right now, I feel like with normal hand traps being played, the deck loses to them because I don't see people like going on only board breakers right now. But if people go on only board breakers, this deck is like a menace.
It's pretty good, yeah. I like it more than Kashtira, honestly, so I will put it top of Rogue.
Yeah, I could agree with that, I think.
All right, then the Fireman, the Hydrant, Rescue Ace up next. And so this deck is getting super popular in Master right now because like the good cards got released recently. And that's why in my head, I'm like, yeah, this is like really insane. But then I switch it back to TCG in my brain. And then I'm like, yeah, we had the discussion last time. This just feels like a worse version of Snake Eye, doesn't it?
Yeah, I stand by that point. The only thing I will say now is we might see like a very weird dynamic with like Rescue Ace at some point. Maybe not this list, maybe after another list that is maybe not big enough. Because the deck, we saw it in the OCG right now. People started picking the deck a bit. So some people started picking Rescue Ace back up because the OCG right now is also sometimes going in the direction of Droplet Talents and so.
Yeah, I see.
And with Droplets and Talents, Rescue Ace becomes a lot better because try to Droplet a board of Rescue Ace where there are 4 back row.
Yeah, true.
It will actually not matter.
That's
and
fair.
That's the thing. And so I think like there we might see a very weird dynamic that might pick up at some point, but I don't think it's this format.
So
I would actually put it into maybe Rogue even.
Oh, maybe even Rogue.
At the top of Rogue, because I don't see it being played enough. I don't see the format shaping itself. But I wanted to mention that if you believe people will go onto Droplet and so, and think that's a big problem for your Snake Eye deck as example, you might consider changing onto the Rescue Ace deck.
That's a good call. But I think for now, as you said, like it's not the time. Because at the moment, I think now at the beginning of the format, people are more so leaning towards cards like evenly matched and so on, because they're like, hey, the Omni Negates are gone, so I can go with my big board breakers again. And that, of course, is a problem for the Rescue Ace deck in general. So yeah, I think it's good to put it into the top of Rogue. I like that. And then we have the combination of the most powerful field spell in the game paired up with the most powerful permanent trap card in the game. And that has to mean we're talking about Runic Stun, huh?
Yeah, exactly. We talked about Runic Stun, and I will let you go first because I'm very interested what you have to say about this deck. Because I have a clear opinion.
You have a clear opinion. So I think in the beginning of the format, we saw Alex winning a regional with it right away. We saw Ben Kreuzkamp even playing this deck a lot. Overall, it having quite some decent success, winning regionals left and right and so on. And I think it was for a reason, because people were just not prepared for this. And when you just, like, people in the beginning of the format played 0 back removal in their side deck.
Yeah.
Just imagine that, 0 back removal. But then, because people saw that stun was becoming more and more of a thing, and it was a budget deck, so people like were inclined to play it because they didn't have to spend so much money on it as well. And then with the increase of stun players being around, you also could just see the increase of back removal in the side decks as well. And so I think at this point, when you look at the latest YCS winning lists, you see 6 back removal cards in the side deck. And that's just a bit much for this deck to really be a top contender. I think there was a short time span where this deck probably was a better pick than Snake Eye to bring to a tournament when people were just not prepared for it, you know? But now with people being prepared for it, we might struggle. Also, people bringing evenly matched and so on doesn't help, of course, because that is a really good card against the deck. So I would say it right now is going back down to a Rogue deck. And then if the format changes, we could see it going into a different direction again. But for now, I think it's it will have a rough time.
Yeah, so I'll say my opinion now. I think this deck is completely horrible. I have no idea how this deck really wins events or tops events. I have no idea how 3 of them managed to like top that event, because I felt like this deck should just get slaughtered, because your win con is effectively to open Skill Drain plus Synchro Zone. If you don't open both of them, you will not win. And if you only open Skill Drain, I feel like you have a chance to like store 1 or 2 turns against Snake Eye to hope you draw into Synchro Zone. All other matchups than Snake Eye felt horrible.
I don't know. Don't you just, even if you just have Skill Drain, I think you probably won. Also, even if you just had Rivalry, you probably won. I think they were decent. Yeah.
Rivalry is limited.
Yeah, but you play Prosperity, Duality, all that kind of stuff. You gotta find it.
Yeah, but that's the same reason like with Flu, where you could say like, yeah, you break every bot because you only always open Duality, Prosp. You will have enough games where you don't open any pot, and then I think this deck is just horrible.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like you need like such a specific hand with this deck. I mean, I can see it. If only Snake Eye runs around, you win like every die roll at a day, and you just draw every time skill drain, you might win. But as like you already said, like with cards like Twin Twister and Cosmic Cyclone being back in the format.
Yeah, like crazy.
Your skill drain also just turns off your Hugin.
That's true.
And when I felt Runic Stun was the most oppressive was when in Master Duel, the deck still had like it's like there can be only once, it's rivalries and it's Gozens. And just went like every turn like Hugin to protect if you were like threatening anything.
That's true.
And right now I just don't see it. I just don't see like that skill is enough. Especially because we have more and more decks in the format that can play through them.
So I will put it into the middle of Rogue, maybe in front of Kashtira, something like that.
Yeah, I mean Kashtira is so bad we can put it in front of it.
Fair. All right, then next up there is that's a pure Runic symbol, and I think that stands for just all the other Runic decks pretty much, right?
Yeah, I would generally talk about Runic combo because I don't think the deck will have like a very big impact as format, the Runic combo decks, because of like the loss of Baron de Fleur. The number of Runic decks you can play decreased drastically.
That's true.
Because many Runic decks had in common that like Runic Bestial or Runic Goateous had in common that they tried to like go into Baron to have like an Omni negate,
sure.
get the Fountain up, and then just like play the slow game. But now you cannot protect your stuff anymore. So I think the only Runic variants that really like stay are probably Lifetran Runic Sprite,
Fire
Runic for Hire,
yep.
And probably Chimera Runic.
True, that's also a thing.
Yeah, then people like thought about Thunder Runic. Don't play this deck, it's horrible. It's actually unplayable. I don't see synergy, but people play it. I mean, the only synergy I see is like you can tribute summon a Thunder Dragon with Hugin.
Okay, so overall, like that's just another deck that also don't forget Plunder Runic, bro. How could you miss out on Plunder Runic?
I forgot. Yeah, I'm sorry for you, but I think Plunder Runic is not the best.
It's the best deck. We know it all. We don't have to talk about it. But yeah, I don't think like.
I don't think. Rogue.
Yeah,
I'll say that much.
Yeah, same. I think it's a rogue deck as well. I would put it in front of the stun deck because I think like the other decks are actually more viable than the stun stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So like we get. I just saw in chat like haven't seen Chimera Runic. Yeah, I also haven't seen it a lot. But I think the deck has some potential with like Omni negates being gone.
Yeah.
Because the deck itself is very good at breaking like with its stuff, like breaking with Guardian Chimera, like Pot of Avarice also being a card that is played in this.
For sure.
Kind of funny. And I think Runic Lifetran Sprite itself is a very solid deck. I don't think it's a very insane deck, but the deck itself, it just eats hand traps very good. So you can hand trap it a lot and it still builds a good board.
Yeah, agree.
And also it can like go into Gigantic to be safe against Nibiru, the Primal Being.
Yeah.
Which I also think is very valid. And also the deck can play Forbidden Droplet, which I think is a very good card this format.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree. So yeah, we settled on it being a rogue deck, and now we come over to the interesting part because we are probably talking top meta again, and we're starting things off with Snake Eye Fire King. And I think when people saw the Forbidden Limitless update, that was like the easiest way to think about things.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, the Fire King part of the deck didn't get hit, so now we just go for this Fire King route, right? So that was like the obvious thing to go for. But then YCS Relay, to some degree, proved that. But also, I think in the end, it was just more pure Snake Eye, right?
It was a lot more pure Snake Eye.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. I think it was like only 3 Snake Eye Fire King.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Making it into top 32 and like 16 Snake Eye decks.
All right.
And I think this is just crazy. And I also thought like we move on to Fire King, but the more I thought about it, I think the Fire King version is just a lot worse because of the reason it is easier to tackle.
Yeah.
Because the deck you can deal with the deck with board breakers and with hand traps. Because in this deck, like you don't have like this classic dynamic of Snake Eye being like, if you hand trap the pure Snake Eye deck once and they have one extender, you hand loop yourself.
Yeah.
This is like the case there. But here in this case of the Fire King deck, if you like Ash the original they have no way to consistently always get to Ponix.
Yeah, the Fire King part is just completely cut off, you're right.
Yeah, which is crazy then. And then they are like ending on so few interrupts that it's just worse than like a pure snake attack that doesn't go for any fancy stuff. And also you can easier break the board because now, like with Baron and Savage being gone, like also like your breakers resolve more often.
For sure.
And now you can just, if you're scared of Fire King, move to cards like Soul Release, which is completely correct versus the Fire King deck.
Absolutely.
Or magical, is it magic? Not magical plant, a magical spring.
Yes, magical spring.
Yeah, and those cards, I think like you can consistently break the board. And that's why I honestly think Fire King is probably just as challenger deck by now.
Ooh, okay. So top of challenger for the Fire King variant. I like that. You gave some good reasoning. And then we have the Kashtira Snake Eye deck next to the pure Snake Eye deck. I think both of them are kind of considered to just be pure Snake Eye because it's a very small Kashtira engine. But it's still like worth talking. Let's talk about the advantage of the Kashtira cards in Snake Eye.
Yeah.
It's printing bodies, right? That's the cool thing about it. It's printing bodies, like one unicorn gives you 2 more bodies you can play with the Kashtira Birth. The Birth itself usually is part of your end field, but it could theoretically also be sent within the combo if you get stopped somewhere. Exactly. So it's so much more cards. Also, the Kashtira cards going second are nice because special summoning Fenrir is really, really, really good. And therefore, I also, I went back and forth. In the beginning, I played pure Snake Eye, then I tried out the Kashtira Snake Eye stuff, and then I went back to pure Snake Eye. Because I think the sacrifice or the struggle that you're going to find yourself in is, do I want to play those cards that just print bodies, which are really, really good going first? Or do I just want to throw in more hand traps so that I can win more consistently going second, right?
So I'll say that much. Further shout outs to Tim because he was like very, very long on the Kashtira cards.
Yeah.
But I stand by my point. I think like before the Forbidden Limited list, I think like the normal Snake deck without Kashtira was better. But right now, I'm a very big fan of the Kashtira cards because of a very simple reason.
Go ahead.
So with Omni-Negates being gone from most end fields, these cards become much better when playing into boards. Because right now, it was like always like if you special Fenrir, your opponent can like consider if he wants to Prometheum it, or if you just want to like let you try to search or attack with it, and he just negates it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
At that point. But now we're at a situation where like a card like Unicorn is good into boards because it provides you with 2 bodies. And also like when you go first, the card, in my opinion, seems even more appealing than a card like Crossout Designator, because of the reason that if you just summon Unicorn and then go ahead and like normal summon Ash, Snake Eye Ash or so, which is like probably the best opening honestly, but whatever. If you like, people normally say like you want to like hand trap as early as possible because you want to like stop them from doing anything. And at this point, we are at a situation like if you Veiler the Snake Eye Ash, your opponent gets to rip your extra deck.
Yeah.
And this might not seem super broke because it's effectively not a real interrupt, but this pretty much guarantees you that you will survive with a solid hand in the mirror match.
Yeah, pretty
because
much.
You can just take out the Prometheum, and then like the whole Zelantis OTK just does not work anymore.
That's true. It was so funny because in the beginning, when the Kashtira cards were introduced to the format, where people started playing it, the general consensus was, just ignore the Kashtira stuff. You're never ever going to Ash Unicorn. You're never ever going to Improm Unicorn or something like that. They just don't do that, you know? And then when the format progressed, people realized how much value that one Unicorn would give you.
Yep.
Also with like the extra deck gripping part, so that all of a sudden Imperming or Veilering Unicorn became a lot more appealing. I mean, especially when you have another hand trap to go for the rest of the turn. But then like you wanted your hand trap, of course, to be resolving on the other stuff, but also you wanted to have that Unicorn negated so it doesn't do the extra deck gripping. It was kind of crazy because so in the end of the format, people actually did hand trap Unicorn then, which was kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, and even in the worst case scenario that you like open like with Kashtira, Unicorn, and Snake Eye Ash, only these 2, and you get like impermed on Snake Ash because that's the worst case scenario. You don't get your ribbon, so you can still like just go like IP Masquerade, summon back Unicorn, And even though that is not the best end field you can build, it is still like a pretty good interruption.
Yeah.
Because if your opponent does anything, you look in their extra deck, take away the most important piece, and you might be able to survive.
For sure.
And you still have 3 cards left in hand and can go into SP Little Knight,
Absolutely.
Earth generating follow-up. It can also take out 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard. If you like in Kashtira format, the biggest fear of every branded player was Kashtira Birth.
Yeah.
Because if you go like Granite Fusion, he just takes out the cards you send and the Albion gets useless.
Yeah. That was that's so funny. Like when you know that you play against branded, when you went first with Snake Eye Kashtira, I had that experience. I played that matchup.
Yeah.
You actually didn't even really care that much about resolving your combo because just ending on a Kashtira monster with Kashtira Birth face up on the field was better. That was your main interruption at that point.
Yeah, and that's crazy, and that's why I honestly think that the Kashtira Snake Eye deck is the best deck of the format, but the margin between it and the pure Snake Eye deck is very, very slim. It's minor. It's minor, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. They're sitting up top. They are the best decks, and it's super, super close between them. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, one thing that's annoying for it, also minorly comes up, but we talked about it earlier with pure Kashtira. It occasionally happened that you would just normal summon a level 3 tuner next to one of your Kashtira monsters and go into Baron. Yeah. Obviously not possible anymore. So it's like a super, super minor, small hit to the deck, but it's almost unnoticeable because you have so many other good things you can go into, of course.
Yeah, and the thing we maybe should mention still is for people that have not followed YCS Raleigh, is that many good players still went for a synchro package. Mm-hmm. Consisting of Omega and Dispater.
True.
Ripping 2 cards of your opponent's extra opponent's hand.
Yeah, correct.
And this is now considered like the standard combo, but also what many people did not see is that some people were on like pure board breaker builds of Snake Eye and performed very well with it.
For sure.
And there I'm very interested to see how this will shape out at the end.
Also, did you see that new technology, that Synchro 8 that one guy in top 32 played, and now all of a sudden everyone is hyping it up?
Which one are you talking about?
He looks like a Cybers monster. Chat, what is its name? Like, it's a Synchro 8 that puts itself into... What are you saying?
The card the Labyrinth guy played? Or Enigmatic Packbit?
Packbit. Yeah, Packbit. Yeah. Packbit is... I like that option as well, honestly. I think Packbit is kind of crazy.
Oh, I haven't read it, honestly. I just have some in my book.
No, Packbit is cool because it actually, it gives you an additional body on the opponent's turn. Okay. You can summon out something as well from the spell and trap zone. It's actually kind of neat.
Okay.
But yeah.
So moving on. Yeah, moving on.
Moving on, exactly. That is some Dragon Link now. And
yeah,
Dragon Link...
deck, that got hit the most, even though it didn't deserve it, right?
Yeah, it already got hit 2 lists ago, and now even the best synchro monsters the deck had to offer also got murdered. So I don't know whether we put it into Rogue the last time we did this, but now it's definitely finally time to put it into Rogue. So where in Rogue are we going? It's actually just not great anymore, right? I
think it's worse than Centurion. Yeah, I think we can put it above Manadium because it has bestials, but yeah, just like the combo lines, they just the stars don't align for you anymore. So even if you're god handing, it's just not enough anymore.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Next up the list, unexpected, but for Sword Sword players, of course, welcome addition back to the deck is Protoss. So Sword Sword can now Protoss again in the TCG, which is scary, quite honestly. But
I mean, every deck can Protoss by now.
Yes,
that's the thing.
Yes, but I mean, you can search it more consistently with this deck.
Yeah, that's correct.
This is like the OG Protoss deck, pretty much.
I mean, honestly, by now, since every deck that can summon a rank 4 and then can somehow banish a card, which every deck can do with SP. Now every deck can summon Protoss probably, and honestly, I think losing Baron and getting Protoss is a very bad trade for Sword Soul.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I hear all sorts of landies coping on going for how is it called, the Changlong or so.
Qixinglong Yan, you mean? Or
no, the Synchro 9 of Tenyi. Xiaofeng.
Oh yeah, Xiaofeng. Sure.
Xiaofeng and Protoss, and then saying oh, I can lock you out of light or dark and dark. Yeah, but you should realize that we're in a fire meta.
Yeah, that's
true. So that's not a thing. So I don't know. I just think this deck is. I don't know. If we are kind, we can put it into rogue. I mean, it is probably a rogue deck, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a rogue. Like, again, I actually think it's better than Runic Stun. I will put it in between the two Runic strategies.
Okay, that's way too high in my opinion, but it's okay with me. I don't care. Give something to the Sword
Soul. Sword Soul and these rise up, exactly. Then Horus tearlaments in the beginning of the format, won the German Open, of course, in the hands of Drizzles. Since then, pretty much disappeared from the format again, right?
Yeah, honestly, I was very much coping with this deck with the third Malicious.
Yeah,
and
fair,
the cope was very strong in me.
I didn't even think about that, but true, yeah, that's a good place to.
Oh, the third Malicious, it gives you very interesting things now because you can rely more on being able to mill it.
Mm-hmm.
Because milling, like you can very consistently resolve like mill 6 or so, and then like getting like the pure mass for milling Malicious is way better with 3. And I think there might still be cope in me. I think the deck has a spot in the format.
Okay,
but it will not be above rogue, sadly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll be kind. I would maybe even consider it better than Runic decks.
Yeah, I agree, actually.
Yeah,
I do agree.
Because so the end fields you can build are very scary with this deck, and the deck also like can play very reliantly through stuff.
Also, just randomly Super Poly could be good again in this format, right? And this deck obviously is a good Super Poly deck.
I have like a very hard time with Super Poly because of the simple reason. Like, I agree with you. Super Poly will be a good card. Will still be like forever a good card, likely.
Yeah.
The only thing that is a bit weird is like the biggest advantage of Super Poly was that you cannot respond to it. And with most Omni Negates now being gone, like that part like gets a bit devalued.
Fair, yeah.
It just feels weird. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just feels weird.
True. Okay, next up the list we have Thunder, and of course the newly received Thunder Dragon Colossus being up there. And I think talking about Thunder, probably the way to go is being that big Bestial Thunder combo pile that David Urban basically back in the day invented. And
that hand loops like 3 or so,
Yeah, it feels better than Dragon Link. Let me say that. It probably is a better variant of Dragon Link, but it still isn't busted by any means. It still isn't format shaping, groundbreaking, or anything like that. I do feel it's also a rogue deck. And I would probably put it somewhere where Tearlaments is also sitting, like right behind Tearlaments.
Well, that's a bit high in my opinion. I think it's more like in the place of Runic Stun, like maybe in front or behind.
Yeah, okay, that sounds alright too.
I think so. The thing with Colossus now, which you have to realize, is it's the same situation like with Kieran. The thing that made like Colossus and Kieran so strong back in the days that they were so hard to deal with.
Yeah, there were no answers to it. True.
Yeah, exactly. And right now we just came into like the game just has shaped up so much. Like it's so different back then. Now just a card like SP Little Knight just like completely like dodges around Protoss like Colossus protection.
Yeah.
So every deck that can somehow turbo out SP Little Knight just banishes the Colossus and then can play on. And that is what was different back then, because back then you were like, I think your only removal would have been like stuff like Nightmare Cerberus or Nightmare Unicorn, and getting to like a Link 3 is much tougher than getting to, yeah, without searching into Link 2.
Times have
because
changed,
spamming got easier right now, and that's why I think like, and especially because Cerberus had that's what I wanted to say is had the problem that is if Protoss is in the EMZ, he wasn't able to like target it at all.
Yeah, Colossus.
Exactly. Colossus, and even if Colossus was in the main monster zone, Colossus had the protection, which it does not have versus SP Little Knight, and that's why I think it's a rogue deck.
Yeah. It probably is very much a rogue deck. And now maybe the most interesting deck to talk about, honestly, because it is definitely the one that is making the most waves from Light of Destruction from the new set. People are talking about it the most. It's actually especially appealing because it is all low rarity cards. And the deck we're talking about is Tenpai. And Tenpai...
I mean,
I
need to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Because like to really play a deck, you need to ask a friend. You really need to ask a friend if he has a copy of Trident Dragon.
True. Go ahead, ask your friends whether they have a copy of Trident Dragon to lend to you. That's the way to go. You guys all know it. So
but of course, right. The new stuff is low rarity.
Yeah, like most of it is. Is there even an ultra rare? I think super rare is the highest rarity for the deck.
No, there's none. There's just super rare.
All right. So, and as a general introduction, my thoughts about the deck, about Tenpai, is I like that it is giving a new mechanic, a new thing into the meta game. I like that there is a deck that is very, very OTK heavy, a deck that is just very battle phase reliant and that does their stuff in the battle phase because that is something new. And I like when there's innovation, new things happening in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. And I think it's also cool to finally have a really, really strong going second deck again, because it has been a while since we have seen that. Striker was kind of the last going second reliable deck. Mech Knight was not even really something to mention, to be honest. But Tenpai definitely, as a going second deck, is going to be in the meta, in the top contending spots. And I'm happy for something to come in there that is going to change the format. And the crazy thing about Tenpai is it almost feels like it was designed to beat Snake Eye. Like, the Tenpai matchup against Snake Eye is ridiculously good, honestly.
I don't know. Honestly,
okay.
I think completely different to you. So first of all, I think these cards are very poorly designed.
Okay.
It might sound weird because like maybe a going second deck really has to be that busted, but I think like the field spell is so ignorant from how it's
crazy,
written. It's so ignorant, and the thing that makes me the most furious by now is that like the field spell you can even activate 2. So if you like Vados the first one and feel great, your opponent can just activate the second one and still get the value of like at least it making your stuff unaffected. And I think this is just so lazy card design, where we like getting rid of Omni Negates because we think like they apply to too much stuff, and now we are like just printing field spells that say unaffected anyways. So the only cool thing I think in this case is that like the deck has some interesting board breaking potentials, kind of like Red Rose Dragon, because the field spell makes it unaffected, so you can just blow up the board.
Yeah.
The thing I'm the most scared about is of them having good hands, because the deck is very sacky, honestly. Them having like good hands, like they Bistia you once, they activate their field spell, they summon the level 4 tuner, and then in main phase they just like summon the Synchro 10, which makes it then that like in your main phase all your stuff is unaffected, and in the battle phase your opponent cannot activate anything.
Yeah.
And this is like, I think, a very unfun interaction, and this is just like from the game design perspective. Now from the gameplay perspective, because this is a meta analysis.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how it's designed, it matters how the deck shapes up in the format. And I honestly think that the deck is not as good as people think it is, because the deck needs to draw above average, in my opinion, to break boards consistently.
Okay, fair.
Because I think the deck really needs its field spell to be able to even do anything. Then it needs to like consistently draw the right ratios of like breakers, hand traps, or engine. And I think the deck will win it. Maybe even win like tournaments or nationals.
Yeah.
But I think the deck, if you are picking it, it is a bit like Flu back in the day, where it's like they top, but it's might not be in your hands to top.
Fair. I get what you mean. Also, I think I saw that on X somewhere, where someone was mentioning how crazy is it that Tenpai is coming into the format being the deck to beat Snake Eye going second, but still it doesn't do it consistently enough. Like you would think, hey, this is a going second deck. The matchup against Snake Eye is insane. That means you just have an like 85% win rate going second against Snake Eye, but it's not even like that. Like it's not even like auto win. It's not like crazy win rates. Still, Snake Eye is just probably going to be the more consistent, better deck. Also, just from a general perspective, when you look at Yu-Gi-Oh!, there is a reason why going second decks have been kind of unexisting for the last 10 years, because the advantage of going first is just very obvious and very strong. Like you can set up your entire stuff. You can even imagine just the scenario where you play against Tenpai Dragons and they send you first game 2. You can anticipate that because it's pretty obvious that they're going to do that. And you can side in the unfair cards like Anti-Spell and so on, and then you just flip Anti-Spell. And what is that deck going to do against it? Guess what? They can't activate their field spell. That's going to be a rough time for them. So just the general concept of having a going second deck is, I don't know whether it's possible to realize as a top meta deck, you know?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I feel like that the situation there is like that people anticipate that you will be the one going first. If your opponent decides, they will make you go first as a Tenpai player.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really the case, because like going first, as you already said, is so good in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
That you might even just say like, yeah, anyways, I'll side in my anti-Tenpai cards and just go first. I don't care. Because you can afford playing like 3 cards or so that are specifically for the Tenpai matchup.
Sure.
And if you're playing like a deck that's like Voiceless or Pearly that can play Port of Prosperity, they'll like consistently get to them. And then you're like in the situation where you're like, what are you doing game 2? Are you siding in your go first cast because you expect your opponent makes you go first?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I mean, even like I just mentioned generically good going first cards, but you would side in. But imagine Tenpai is really taking off, and Tenpai is a deck that you are sacrificing side decking spots for. Imagine people are actually playing Threatening Roar or stuff like that in their side deck. Like, you could just, your deck doesn't do anything anymore. Like, you don't have a battle phase? Cool, bro. Cool deck.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's the situation where I think that Tenpai will be a challenger deck.
Yeah, for sure.
But people make it to like top challenger or top meta already, and I honestly think it's not better than Flu.
Ooh,
I'll be that harsh. I think it's worse than Flu, because Flu breaks the Snake Eye board more consistently than Tenpai.
Ooh, that is a statement that maybe we have to check back in on in a month, honestly. Maybe we're getting proved differently on that.
Like, probably, but
I would personally just for the benefit of the doubt, because there is obviously some unknown stuff still with the Tenpai deck, I would put it in front of Flu. I would put it behind Voiceless, or behind Voiceless, I would say.
I would put it behind Pearly, honestly, because Pearly has proven its worth. I think Tenpai first needs to show me that people can consistently go second with it.
Okay.
Honestly.
I'm down.
Because the thing, I feel like when like going second decks are the scariest, like a going second deck I at least respect in my heart a bit, is when people decide to go second with Sword Soul.
Yeah.
Because that deck back then was a deck that is good going first, so you don't want to make it go first. Mm-hmm. So people knew they were going second game 2. And it also had like the board breakers that were good. Now, if we're getting to a format where like board breakers are so good that Tenpai just can play all the board breakers, we might think different. But then I see the problem of people sending Tenpai go first, where it is like just draw your floodgate or lose.
Yeah, I see. All right. Okay, so Tenpai, long discussion about it, and we're both skeptical about the deck, but we're also very excited for something new to happen in the format, of course. Yeah. Therefore, right now it's being a challenger deck, but we may be proven wrong. Everyone, let us know in the comments what your opinion about Tenpai is, because I think that is like right now maybe the most controversial topic in the community. I think like whenever you go to a tournament of Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment, people will be talking about Tenpai and how they are going to perform at TCG. I think that's like the most beloved topic that there is at the moment. Okay, next up the list, we have Unchained. Does anything change for Unchained in the upcoming format?
I don't think really anything changes. I think people played like some Yubel Unchained variants in the OCG. Mm-hmm. I don't think they are playable for us because Shavara is at 1.
True.
I might be wrong on that, but I don't think it's very good. I think like it's a mediocre rogue deck, honestly.
I agree. Let's put it in front of Kashtira, because that's always our breaking point.
Kashtira was always like the card we said like better or worse.
Yeah. Then we have Labyrinth, and Labyrinth, interestingly enough, just made the finals of YC's Relay. Of course, that was without the Lede cards, but like Labyrinth does not seem like one of the decks where Tenpai would be good against, right? Because like they could have dropped it and stuff, but actual trap cards could be kind of good against that again then.
Yeah, honestly, the funniest interaction there is like if you like the Ruma Karma Kennedy Tenpai deck, because they need to send their cards.
True. The Ruma completely cooks Tenpai.
Yeah, and but honestly, I think we cannot like focus on Tenpai too much. I think we need to focus on the other decks, and I think like Labyrinth gets pretty much cooked from the format in general. I'm feeling like I mean the deck is probably solid.
Yeah,
but
in theory it gets cooked pretty hard by the Snake Eye decks, right?
yeah, that's the thing. And if they handle the Labyrinth, and if your trap deck then starts with like
Yeah.
4 cards in hand or so, this is
True.
so tough.
It's tough.
And I don't even know how I would like approach a Labyrinth list.
Yeah.
Because all like the ways people play Lab don't seem so good this format, because we have already figured out that people are back on some board breakers
Yeah.
or some like power spells. And the card like Droplet you cannot play in Labyrinth. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
A card like Talents is very bad for you in your deck.
For sure.
And if you like hand trip your opponent not enough, just a slightly bit, they get Talents and cook you. So
yeah, like when we look at the decks up here, like the Snake Eye decks have a good matchup against Labyrinth. Branded has a superior matchup against Branded since the beginning, basically. Even Voiceless should have a decent matchup against Labyrinth with like the trap card and so on.
I think they have a crazy matchup.
Yeah, like it really doesn't seem like a format for Labyrinth, and that's why I just don't think we can put it into Challenger, can we?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm very like I don't know where I would put it, because I was thinking like the deck should be a Challenger deck from the engine, but the more I think about it, the more I would also put next to Rescue Aid, probably.
Probably, right? Just top of Rogue. Oh, I mean, we have to make some bold calls, and we're making the bold call that Labyrinth is a Rogue deck. Let's go.
Yeah, because both those decks are like they have so good engines. They feel like the first new Yu-Gi-Oh era decks, where we like think like, yeah, they seem so cool, they seem so good, but it's just not enough.
True.
Yeah, speaking of decks where it's just not enough.
Last but not least, we have the Yubel deck. So there was now good support for Yubel in Lede because the Nightmare Throne came out, correct?
Yeah, very good support.
But there is still like some support announced that we are waiting for as Yubel players. So the deck is still not at full force. And how good is it now with the latest support that we just received?
Yeah. So Astrodog will hate me because I'll tell the truth. I think the deck is still missing too much right now.
Okay.
So the deck itself is a very cool deck. I gotta give it to the deck, because like all the interrupts it builds is crazy. So the board it can build is crazy. But right now, without Spirit of Yubel, it is too easy to interrupt the deck. So the thing is, Spirit of Yubel itself is a negate.
Yeah.
Very easily of your opponent. But the card is not out yet. And what you can do, like what the OCG does, it starts off with their Yubel combo, and then just very early summon Spirit of Yubel, making it that it is not really possible to hand trap the deck.
Which is cool.
That being said, that is not what we have right now.
Exactly.
And now, it is so easy to just like interrupt the deck, and then we're at a situation where you put in so many bricks into your deck to build a very cool going first board, but in the end you cannot like summon the it's Phantom of Yubel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Whatever.
Oh yes, true. Spirit of Yubel is the card where we have Phantom of Yubel. We have not. Sorry if I confused you. I meant the fusion that is not out yet.
Yeah, the fusion. We all know which one you meant. All good.
Yes. Because the other fusion is also good, and all the cards itself are good, but now you're throwing in too many cards that are not good enough if they get hand trapped, because that's what makes a good deck. A good deck can build a very good board, or at least a solid board, and can play through interrupts. And I don't see that being done by Yubel right now.
Same. And therefore, it makes it into Rogue, but it has to be just in front of Dragon Link, I would say. That's where I would put it.
Yeah, I think we could discuss it being like next to Unchained or so.
Ooh.
Honestly, that's the point where I would give it, because this deck I would give the benefit of the doubt, because I see potential in the cards. Maybe even better than Unchained.
Okay, you got me. You got me.
That's the highest point I'll give you. And I think the cards are interesting. The cards are good, but maybe it's not yet the time. But hey, feel free to experiment, because interesting are the cards are.
Of course, like new decks are always kind of cool. Also, chat, I saw someone asking for Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul we just didn't include. Should be another Rogue deck, though. Nothing crazy about Vanquish Soul at the moment. Also, of course, there's like the new Sacrificus deck. Is it called Sacrificus?
I think it's the first Sarcophagus deck. Yeah,
something like that. So there's not really enough data to say anything about the deck. Probably just another rogue to maybe next time deck. But
yeah, exactly.
If it does show up with results, we are going to include it into the next meta analysis, of course. Yeah. Everyone, let us know in the comments. Okay, sure.
I forgot one
Go
thing.
ahead.
I need to add one, which is Chimera. I also read that.
Ooh, yeah, true.
Chimera itself, a solid deck, gets support like another like a card that gives the deck more consistency. Problem is consistency is not the thing that Chimera needed. Chimera needed more like power. It needed more endboard potential. It did not get this. It got more consistency. So it stays a rogue deck in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
At the bottom of rogue.
It is a rogue deck for sure.
And I'll do your outro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like if we forgot your pet deck, if you think we have to include one very specific deck next time, make sure to put that into the comments. We're going to read through all of the comments. I'm always answering all the comments as well. Give us your opinion. Give us your feedback. Maybe you think we ranked one deck completely wrong here in our overview. It's also always fun to look at the meta breakdown we did like 1 month later and then see, okay, we were completely wrong or we were completely right about a couple of things. So definitely make sure whenever you see this to include your opinion into the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Icentrix, thank you so much for joining us again. That was a blast. And also, everyone, make sure to next time join live on Twitch, because this is always live recorded on Twitch. The link to our channel is also underneath the video in the comment section. Leave a follow over there, and then you can next time just watch it when it is being produced. Any last words, my friend?
I think we did a very good job here, and I'm interested to see how this turns out, though.
Same. Until next time, bye.